Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and we are in the middle of the 7th continent. Nope, that's a lie. We actually were on an island in the last one, which then we hopped across some rocks over here, ended up in another small island, which does correspond to our clue card that we have for the Voracious Goddess, which had us starting here. And we managed to run our way over to the second island here. We have managed to actually avoid getting hit by anything major yet. And I have nothing to knock on wood as I say that, so it's likely coming up here something terrible is going to happen. Now, based in the last video, or at least I asked you guys to respond by voting and let me know what we should do next. And really the only two options were for us to build a raft and do something crazy like head out to sea, which we can do because we got this wonderful raft card right here. But as you can see, based on the card that we'd be using to trigger that action, we would need 11 successes and 7 cards or more pulled in order to pull that off. And I'm guessing we'd probably need more than 7 cards to be sure we do it. Again, we would have the benefits from the card itself, which give us some successes and stuff like that for having it and using its durability in order to make that happen. But the voting clearly decided in the last video that we're going to go ahead and use our brain and actually check the sub, which we have sitting right here. So we're going to go ahead and move over here. And of course, just moving on the tile that you're already on or on the piece of land you're already on doesn't cost any actual movement. But from where we are right here, now we can actually go ahead and do a search and examine action at 0, 2, 2. Now, as you can see, no cards are needed to be pulled for this, and there's no successes. We just go straight to the box and find out what's there. So let's do it. I'm excited. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that there we go. That's a nice jump. So we're looking for a 22, and we've got 2 of them. So there's 2 of them. All right. So we always pull the green one first. Okay, so this one says, the cranes support the submarine above the water by chains attached to either end. Ah, I see. Okay. Each chain runs through a pulley located at the top of the crane. Lowering and submerging the submarine obviously requires great precision and skill. In order to go ahead and do something or an action here, we have a check we've never actually seen before called pull, push, or lift. That's what that action with the bicep flexing symbol is, or icon is. We have one. It looks like it's going to cost us 1 action in order to actually try to succeed at this, and it looks like we can't actually pull any additional cards. There's no plus beside it. So that's interesting. In terms of the lock symbol, for those of you who are not familiar with that, it just says players must draw the exact number of cards indicated by the action unless they choose to apply card effects from their hands or their inventories. So, in other words, it's just reaffirming the fact you can only pull however many they actually specify on the card. So basically our idea here essentially says if we go ahead and pass this check, the chains do not break, the submarine is back in the water. That's great news. So basically if we can pull this off, things go well. If we don't, you hear a sudden clang at the top of one of the cranes. This is not a good sign. So really we get into a situation where we're either going to pass this or we're going to fail it miserably. Now, in order for me to try to succeed at this action, the one thing that's going to save me possibly is the fact that I have 2 cards. Not only do I have Dark Regeneration with the keyword Serenity, I also have a Remember card down at the very bottom left, which is probably hard to see, that says Serenity. So if I happen to pull a Curse card when I pull this card, then we can use our character ability. But again, that's a really, really terrible way of hoping to get a success. We would rather just see it in the card when we pull it. I don't have anything that can help me in this particular situation. I have a walking stick, which is useless for this particular action. I have a blowpipe, useless, and I also have a life jacket, completely useless. So there's nothing else that I can do to really enhance this to ensure that I make this check and it goes forward in a positive way. Now, just so you're aware, we can only do this once. So again, it's going to sit just like this. And we're going to have to make ourselves a choice here of pulling that 1 card. I'm just doing a quick check here really fast to see, because I do have those Remember cards. So before I go ahead with this action, I'm very, very curious as to whether or not I want to remember something from the past to help me. But I don't think it's going to really do anything for me. So I'm going to go back through my discard pile really quick here, because they are face up, and I just want to see if there's anything that I could potentially pull out using the Remember card, which allows you to choose a card from your discard pile and bring it into your hand. I'm just scanning through them one by one. We've seen these before in the previous videos, but really I'm just looking for anything with that strength symbol on it, and I didn't find a single one. So not only that, I'm reminded of the fact we have 2 curses out of the 5, I guess it would be, in the discard pile, which makes my odds of pulling one even less. So let's go ahead and pull our card, hope for the best, and see what happens, because there really isn't anything I can do to add to this particular check. So here we go. We're hoping for a success. Oh my gosh. We got a curse. So this is awesome. In a normal situation, if you were not H.P. Lovecraft, I would fail this. But because we pulled a curse, somehow we are going to be able to discard a card with the keyword Serenity. As it says here, during the result step of an action you are involved in, you may discard 1 card with the keyword Serenity from your hand in order to apply the following effect. If each curse revealed is worth 1 star, perfect, or 1 success. So I can choose to get rid of the Remember card, which I might do, or Dark Regeneration. Now, Dark Regeneration has a really handy ability to always be essentially helping us from... It says, if at least 1 curse card is revealed during the result step of an action you are involved in, you may return your freezing, frightened, hungry, nauseated, or tired state. I don't have any of those states yet, but I know in the future I'll probably get one. So that's more worth it to me, I think, than one of these Remembers. And I have 2 of them anyway, so I'm going to discard this particular card in order to turn this one into a success. And of course, we cannot take this into our hand, and the rules state that you may essentially place a card in your hand. In this particular case, I can't. So nothing's going to go into my hand. My hand size is down to 4, so we are still under the 5 limit. We went ahead and we passed this, so it says, the chains do not break, and the submarine is back in the water. Return the terrain card you are standing on and replace it with a 24 card, and then discard this. So this particular card here is also removed. We're also going to be replacing this card with a 20... Sorry, I want to make sure I grab the right one. 24 card. Okay, so let's make sure we grab the right card. So that would be this one. All right, it says, the submarine is in the water. Now set off as quickly as you can. You never know what could happen. That's not good. So we're going to flip this over, and we've revealed a new look of the terrain. Of course, this one here is no longer. We'll throw that away as well. Put our character back on the mat, and as you can see, things have changed drastically. We now have a sub in the water with a different symbol now, a new symbol that we can check out in this particular area, 37. So, I mean, it's fairly obvious that's what we're going to do next. So let's do that. Let's check 37. There's no actions or no cards pulled required, and we don't need any successes. So we'll go right to the box and find 37. Let's see what we got here. There we go. We're getting closer. 36, 37. Okay, let's see what happens here. So it says, stepping into the submarine, you see that that the former occupants apparently took anything of use. Ah, that's not good. And what does it say here? Ooh, interesting. Entering the control room, you immediately check the remaining fuel. All you have to do is restart the engine and you'll be able to leave this blasted place. Okay, so I'm going to put that here. It's one of those things that once it's done, it's done. We've got that stair thing. Again, I talked to you about that before. That icon means nothing to a solo player, at least when I'm only controlling one person, so we don't have to worry about that. It says here, entering the control room. So we already talked about this just a few seconds ago, but we already checked the remaining fuel, and we just have to restart the engine. So really, we're just trying to trigger the engine. Do we have the ability to potentially... Now this is where we get an interesting symbol that I've actually never run into before. This one's it says 21, but then there's this weird gear symbol here. So I'm going to start looking through my stuff because I do have a couple gear wheels to use. And what I'm curious about is the fact that it shows 2 different types of gears inside of it, whereas mine says you may add together the number of the card you are... Okay. So basically in the action consequences section of my reference sheet, it says beside the number, of course in this case it's not 159, in my case it's 21. If I was to succeed at this check, which we still have to do, then it says you may add together the number of the card you are going to take. So in my case that would be 21. And you would add it to the number associated with the pictograph. So in this particular case, the pictograph shows that I can use a gear or another gear. But as you can see, there's 2 different gear symbols there. So a little bit interesting, meaning that maybe I could have found another type of gear. But if I head over here really quick, I know that I only have a couple of these cards in my hand. I'm just double checking here to make sure. Don't forget any. But of course we have the 2 metal gear wheels right here. Oh, we have them both. We have them both. I never noticed that they were 2 separate symbols, even though they're the exact same cards. So really we're adding both of these values of 6 to this particular card. That's awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and make this check. We know we have to use at least 1. This check is considered a take or handle check, as it says right here on the card. So we're gonna have to go ahead and do that. We have to pull 1 card, and at that point we're done. I get to keep it though, because basically I only have 4 cards in hand, so I can take this and get me up to my 5 limit. It says you may discard this during the result step of an action you are involved in order to apply the following effect. Awesome, what a great card. And, oh no, it doesn't have Serenity on it, that's too bad. But still, a great card to have nonetheless. So we've passed this now, so now at this point I'm gonna go ahead and use the metal gear wheels that I have to add 6 and 6, so 12 on top of 21. So we're going to be dumping this up to 33 is the card we're going to be grabbing now. Now, one thing I don't know, and I'll have to double check in the rules, is whether or not I lose these 2. I would assume that I've used them now, and I wouldn't be able to use them for anything else. That'd be my assumption. So for now, I'm going to put them in the past. But if that's incorrect, I will double check and pull those back out for the next video. But for right now, we know we're grabbing 33. So let's go ahead and grab 33 and see what happens. I'm really, really curious here. This is a different result than what would have happened if we only had 1 gear or none. So it says the submarine's engine rumbles to life and begins to steadily hum as it settles into gear. You pull away from the shore and leave the island without further delay. Awesome. The control room is cramped and uncomfortable. Despite the noise from the engines and the head spinning fuel you smell, you are all too happy to be the captain of the submarine, at least for a little while longer. All right, so we got a timed event here. So this is something that's going to just occur right now. After navigating for about 20 minutes, you can suddenly make out the wild coast of the 7th continent in the distance. Luckily, the gauges indicate that you have just enough fuel to get there. Take 3 003 cards. Ah, look at that, guys. We just found out what to do with those Metal Gear Wheel cards. Haha, see? Now I can actually correct myself on the mistake I just made. But anyway, we'll take the three cards right now, and I'm gonna double check to see how many of them there really are first off. So we're following this just as it states to make sure we don't mess up along the way. So we're going down here. We got the 3. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's 5 of them. So very, very interesting. So I'm gonna just split it up. I'm gonna take, let me just see how this works. Yeah, it says take 3 of them. Okay, I'll do that. So I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna skip one, I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna skip one, and I'm gonna take this one. And because we're always making sure we're grabbing the green ones first. I don't know if I should flip these over yet or not. That's the only fun part. Then it says banish the 2 Metal Gear Wheel cards that are under the Satchel Journal. So as we just talked about, those 2 that I put in the past by accident are going to end up going into the banished pile, which makes sense because once you use them, they're now gone. They wouldn't, because again, when you're saving your game later, when you're talking about cards in the past, those cards would come back and go back into the decks essentially. For instance, like finding animals or hunting things. A card like a cog, where we've already used it to take a sub to a certain other location potentially, obviously would never be used again as we used it, so they would be banished. That just makes sense. Okay, moving on. So return all the cards on the board and in the past, and then banish a green 17 card. Okay, that's interesting. Return all the cards on the board and in the past, and then banish a 17 card. Geez, that's like everything we've done. That's insanity. Okay, so what's going to have to happen here is this video is going to have to be a little bit shorter than normal because I'm going to really need some time to deconstruct this particular setup here. We're going to be closing it up, and then it's going to say here, once we do that, we're going to banish a 17 card. I'll do that on camera in the next video. We're then going to put into play, the active player chooses, a 38 card if you head north-northwest, or a 132 card if you head north, or a 198 card if you head northeast. Each player places their figure onto it. So essentially that's really cool. We're going to get to choose, and that's what this vote at the end of this video is going to do. I want you guys to let me know in the vote, which I'm going to put up right now, which actual heading are we going to? Are we going north-northwest for the 038 card? Are we going to head north for the 132 card, or are we going to head northeast for the 198 card? Once I get enough votes, we will go ahead and push on to the next one. I do want to make another disclaimer though, guys, before we end this off, and we will talk about these particular cards in a second here, because I am going to pull them, I'm going to flip them over and take a look at them. But one thing that I really want to make mention of, guys, is the fact that we are playing a game that's all about revealing and exploring. So one thing I want to make big mention of, because there was some comments along the way here as we've gone that people want to see more, but some people have now jumped off the bandwagon because they may or may not want to see any more spoilers. Really, the purpose of this gameplay was to give you guys an idea of how this game flows, how much fun it can be, because I was interested in it when it was on Kickstarter, and I am beyond impressed. That's all I can say about how exciting it is to kind of explore this. So the whole purpose of these videos is just to show you whether this is something that will interest you. It isn't to spoil the entire continent. So at this point, now that we're leaving these islands and heading to the continent, I will be doing one more video after this, which is going to be essentially us doing this result, landing on the 7th continent itself, maybe exploring a little bit of that edge of the area, and then I think at that point we're going to call her quits. And I want you guys to actually get your own copies and run from there. Again, when this actually releases from Kickstarter will be, I believe, next year sometime. So the majority of you will probably forget half of what we did. And just so you know, not all that we did here together, to this point at least, will even play out the same way. You may not pull the same cards that I pulled. You may not succeed at some of the checks that I did, and vice versa. So there's a lot of things to explore there. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and resolve our experience cards now, because we got 003 cards, and that's what those things are. So we're just going to read these out. So it says, an event from your previous expedition comes to your mind. Your team once spent a whole day making a stretcher to carry Emily Z. As a matter of fact, the closest trees were over 3 miles away from where he had broken his leg. And we're going to flip this over, and it is 1 experience point. It says, when you craft an item, you will save time and energy if you have the right resources at hand. So it's just a tip. There's a tip on every single experience point card that's worth reading. And then it says, when you need to spend experience points, return it. So this is, again, this goes under your journal and satchel, but because we're playing the way we're playing open-handed, I've just been putting them beside the journal and satchel so you guys can see. Now we have 2 experience, but we know it's coming again. We've got another one here. This one says, a moment from your previous expedition comes to mind. So all of this you can think thematically is as we were traveling across, journeying towards the 7th continent, these types of memories are coming back to us. A moment from your previous expedition comes to mind. Vaiho, your group's, oh wow, I'm going to butcher these names. Your group's Shanane Pathfinder had amazing ability to spot paths to places that were otherwise unreachable. And we get another experience point. Another tip, it says examine terrain cards carefully. We've done that quite a bit in these playthroughs. In addition to potential hidden numbers, they may contain helpful hints, such as animal tracks suggesting the presence of wild game in the area. So again, another XP for me. This is awesome. These are going to be really handy later when we have to spend XP. I've got a lot. We're really off to a great start, I think. So this one says, a memory from your previous expedition comes to mind. Jimmy, the military demolition specialist, kept repeating, if a stupid rock is stopping you, you'll get rid of it faster with dynamite than with a pickaxe. Another experience point for us, and a tip, sometimes it's wise to postpone an action until you have the appropriate equipment. Yes, that is definitely true. And then again, another experience point under the satchel and journal. So we have a total of 4 experience points. That's awesome. What I'm going to do, guys, before you make this decision now, because this vote is there and you are able to go ahead and vote, I'm going to give you one more look at the bottom section of the card so you guys can see what exactly you're voting on. So that last paragraph is what I want you to choose. Pick your location for us to essentially shore up against the 7th continent. And the next thing that I want to, and I guess in a submarine you wouldn't really shore up, but we're basically just going to stop outside of that location. One thing I'm going to do is give you a quick look at the clue card again so you can get a rough idea of not only where we are based on our location on the island, but also what the clue looks like in terms of where we're supposed to head, because that's going to be very, very important in terms of where we should land going forward. Although apparently it's letting us land at multiple different places, so we could take an alternative route. But regardless, as I said, after this video there will be one more, just to show you guys just a little teaser of the 7th continent itself, because it'll be the first time we've actually landed on it. And then at that point, that will be the end of the playthrough, and I'll be moving on to a new adventure in a brand new different game. So anyway, I hope you guys will join me. Hope you've enjoyed this playthrough thus far. Please vote for the next video in the eye up in the top right hand corner. If you're not seeing the eye, make sure your annotations are on. You can go to the gear symbol in the right corner of the menu within the video in order to turn them on or enable them, and then you'll be able to vote and tell me where we should land. I'm really excited to see what you guys happen to say, so until next time guys, keep on rolling solo.